Never dig for dirt on someone the universe protects, because you'll end up buried in your own jealousy. That's the reality they're choking on right now, chosen one. They thought sending an investigator after you would expose your flaws, but instead it exposed their obsession. It's like they hired a hitman for your reputation, only to realize he came back writing your fan letter. The same mouths that tried to ruin you are now being forced to admit there was nothing to ruin. The same people who whispered lies behind your back are now watching their words turn into your resume. And here's a cold fact for you. According to multiple behavioral studies, over 70% of workplace and social gossip isn't based on truth. It's born out of jealousy, insecurity, and projection. People don't talk about you because you did something wrong. They talk because you did something right. You became a mirror that made them see what they'll never be. And when that reflection hurt too much, they tried to break the mirror. But mirrors don't bleed. They just keep reflecting. Imagine it like this. They thought they were sending a storm to wash you away, but all it did was water your garden. They sent an investigator expecting to find chaos, yet every person he spoke to described calmness, professionalism, kindness, and quiet strength. "Oh, them," someone said. "They're one of the most grounded people I've ever met. Always respectful, always focused." Another added, "If you're looking for dirt, you're digging in the wrong place." That's when the investigator realized this wasn't a scandal, it was a success story. And thank you, Chosen One, for still being here. Don't forget to pay this message back by simply pressing the like and subscribe buttons to help spread this message to more souls. It's our shared mission to keep this light traveling through every dark corner that needs it. You are part of a force, one that the jealous can't understand and the fake can't destroy. Now, let's come back to what really happened. They were mad because every rumor they planted grew into proof of your goodness. Every whisper they started turned into word-of-mouth praise. The investigator came ready to collect secrets, but ended up collecting compliments. They thought people would say you were fake, difficult, or two-faced. But instead, your co-workers, your old classmates, even the ones who were neutral, said the same thing. "That one? Nah. They've always been solid." Imagine the humiliation on your enemies' faces when their investigation became free PR for your character. That's the universe playing chess while they're busy flipping checker pieces. You see, when you carry real integrity, the truth doesn't need defending. It does that on its own. They underestimated how deeply your energy impacted people. You didn't have to prove yourself. Your record did it for you. You didn't have to speak. Your consistency spoke louder than any rumor. That's what they hate most. Your silence has more credibility than their noise. And here's another fact most people don't know. When someone tries to attack your reputation and fails, it creates a reverse gossip effect. It means that once people realize the lies were false, their respect for you multiplies. They start watching you closely, not to find flaws, but to learn how you handled it so calmly. You became a quiet mystery in a loud world, and that's magnetic. So yes, Chosen One, the investigator asked around. They interviewed friends, co-workers, and even old connections, hoping to find a crack in your story. But all they found was something that terrified your enemies: consistency. You were the same person everywhere. Polite, private, honest. No scandals, no chaos, just peace. And that peace is your power. Because in a world addicted to drama, peace looks suspicious, and that's why they wanted to test it. But what happens when they test peace? It stays unbothered. It smiles. It keeps working. It keeps shining. They tried to find skeletons in your closet, but found trophies instead. They looked for proof of darkness, but discovered your discipline. They wanted to label you as too good to be true, only to realize you're just true. This entire setup was supposed to break you. Instead, it exposed them. It showed who was genuinely in your corner and who was secretly waiting for you to fall. Some of them even pretended to help, feeding information behind the scenes. But the universe doesn't let betrayal go unnoticed. It records everything. That's why suddenly people are treating you differently now. They know you know. They feel the tension. They sense the silence. You don't need revenge. Your energy already handled it. They thought the investigation would bury you, but all it did was confirm your rise. What was meant to humiliate you became your highlight reel. What was meant to end your story became the start of your legend. Because when you're the chosen one, even your trials are testimonials, and every attempt to expose you only reveals how clean you really are. So remember this, chosen one, you don't have to fight lies when the truth already has witnesses. The people who matter have seen who you really are. The rest, they're just background noise in a movie that's already starring you. And the ones who sent that investigator, they're realizing too late. You can't investigate purity and come out looking innocent. And hey, chosen one, thank you for being here and giving your energy to this message. What you're about to hear will confirm exactly why people can't stop talking about you, even behind closed doors. They thought their whispers would break you, but they only made your name echo louder. So stay with me till the very end, because we're about to break this story down step by step, and every second will reveal something they never wanted you to know. Drop a comment below with the number 444 if you're ready to watch their gossip turn into your glory. And if you can, bless the team behind this message with a small token of gratitude, because every bit of support fuels this mission to keep the truth alive. Whether it's a cent or a shout out, it matters. Now take a deep breath, chosen one, because what's coming next will make you realize the investigation wasn't against you. It was proof you were always the one they couldn't ignore. Let's dive in. Number 1. They dug for dirt, but unearthed diamonds instead. Be careful who you dig into. The hole you make might become your own grave. That's exactly what happened when they came for you, chosen one. They thought they could expose you, humiliate you, drag your name through the mud. But the universe doesn't let false hands touch what's clean. They were praying for dirt and ended up choking on the dust of their own failure. You didn't just pass their test, you made the test itself look foolish. They thought your life was a performance, but it turned out to be proof. See, jealousy always disguises itself as curiosity. That's the trick they use to feel innocent about their hate. "Oh, I'm just asking questions," they'll say, "just trying to understand." But no, they weren't trying to understand you. They were trying to undermine you. They wanted to see you stumble, to find even a small stain they could stretch into a scandal. But your life, your track record, your energy, it all stood like a wall they couldn't climb. You didn't live fake. You didn't switch faces depending on who was watching. You were the same when no one was looking, and that's what exposed them. Because in a world of masks, your authenticity became a mirror. Let's be honest, chosen one, the investigator wasn't the real threat. The real threat was the intention behind it. They wanted confirmation of their own narrative, that you were secretly messy, secretly fake, secretly undeserving of your peace. But when that investigator walked into the rooms where your name lived, what did he find? People saying, "Oh yeah, they're solid. Always been that way." He found old co-workers remembering your professionalism, old friends recalling your loyalty, and even quiet observers admitting you were different. Not perfect, but real. And that's what made your enemies furious. They were praying for a scandal and ended up writing your reference letter. Integrity is what you do when no one's clapping, they say, and you've been doing it your whole life. You didn't change for attention. You stayed consistent through chaos. When others played games, you played it straight. And now, that's why their lies won't stick. Because truth doesn't defend itself, it reveals itself. They tried to plant weeds in your garden, but you were already rooted too deep. You see, people like that don't hate you because you're wrong. They hate you because your existence proves they are. Let me ask you this, chosen one, didn't you notice how quiet they got when the truth came out? The same ones who were laughing before suddenly went mute. The energy shifted fast, because when their little gossip mission backfired, they couldn't handle the embarrassment. Imagine their faces when they realized every person they expected to badmouth you actually praised you. That investigator probably looked at them like, "You sure you gave me the right name?" That's the kind of humiliation that burns slow. And that's why they're mad now. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your reputation didn't cooperate with their fantasy. Think about it like this. They wanted to bury you alive, but you were made of stone. They kept digging and digging, expecting decay, but instead they struck something that shined. You became living evidence that not everyone's pretending, that not everyone's hiding skeletons. That's rare, and it scares people who built their image on illusion. You're living proof that you can win without cheating, rise without gossip, shine without stepping on others. And that alone destroys the foundation of their jealousy. Here's a psychological fact they don't want to admit. People obsessed with finding flaws in others usually do it to distract from their own. It's projection, plain and simple. The moment someone starts investigating you unprovoked, it's not about you. It's about their need to justify why they're not where you are. They can't stand the idea that your calm came from discipline, not deception. So they dig, hoping to find an excuse that makes them feel better about staying mediocre. But instead, all they find is that your peace is genuine, and that drives them insane. You ever wonder why they wanted the investigator to talk to your co-workers, your friends, your old contacts? Because deep down, they were hoping someone, anyone, would validate their hate. But hate doesn't multiply when the soil is clean. Every person that investigator met gave the same story, different details, same message. That's the power of living honestly. You don't have to manage lies when you've got nothing to hide. Your truth travels quietly, but it reaches every ear that needs to hear it. And now, the irony. They accidentally made you look better. Their plot became your promotion. They gave you free publicity without realizing it. People who didn't even know you before now do, and they respect you, because real recognizes real. And when the investigators' report came back clean, they couldn't stand it. You were supposed to be exposed, but instead, you were exalted. So here's what's funny, chosen one. They thought they were pulling your skeletons out, but they were just digging up the seeds you planted long ago. Seeds of honesty, work ethic, patience, and class. Those seeds grew into trees so strong that even their shovels broke against the roots. You've become the walking definition of you can't fake clean energy. And that terrifies them because they can't manufacture what you naturally are. Let's answer the question that's probably lingering in your mind. Why would they go to such lengths to destroy me if I've done nothing wrong? The answer is simple, because you did nothing wrong. You're living proof that peace is possible without manipulation, that success can be quiet, that kindness can win, and to people addicted to chaos, that's unforgivable. You're not their problem, you're their proof of failure. Every good word said about you is a reminder that their lies didn't work. So they can stay mad. Let them. Their investigation became your vindication. The investigator came to find dirt, but walked away impressed. And everyone who participated in that witch hunt is now pretending it never happened. But the universe saw it all, and it made sure every false word they spoke became a brick in your fortress. They were digging for dirt, chosen one, but you were the diamond that cracked their tools. Your story is now their warning. Never go to war with someone who has nothing to hide. You didn't just survive the smear, you reversed it. And now your very name carries the power they wanted to erase. They thought they were exposing you, but all they did was expose their own insecurity. And that's the most painful truth of all, because when envy meets integrity, envy always loses. Number 2. The streets turned into your stage and their secrets became background noise. They tried to whisper your downfall, but the streets shouted your name louder. That's the kind of poetic justice that burns your enemies from the inside out. Chosen one. They thought their gossip would echo louder than your truth. They were so confident that their lies would become the legend, while your reality faded into silence. But what they forgot is that reputation built on truth doesn't need defense. It has roots in every heart you've ever impacted. You didn't need to stand up for yourself, the streets did it for you. Here's the funny part. When the investigator started asking around, the results weren't what your enemies expected. They wanted chaos. They wanted confirmation. They wanted to hear the same venom they'd been spitting behind closed doors. But when those questions hit the real world, reality hit back harder. The people who actually knew you didn't repeat the lies. They corrected them. Some laughed. Some rolled their eyes. Some said, "Who told you that nonsense?" The streets didn't echo their secrets. They exposed their envy. Truth travels slowly, they say, but it never loses direction. That's exactly what happened here. While they were busy fabricating rumors, the universe was building your reputation brick by brick. The same people they expected to drag your name ended up defending it without hesitation, because you left something behind everywhere you went. Respect, a clean record, small acts of kindness that no one saw coming, but everyone remembered. Imagine this. They sent a rumor like a paper airplane, expecting it to soar, but it barely made it off the ground, because the air around your name was too pure for lies to fly in. The investigator walked through those same streets, expecting to find dirt, and instead found gold. Oh, them, people said, always polite, always professional, never in drama. Each response was a nail in the coffin of their fantasy. They thought the public opinion would be their weapon, but it became your witness. You might be wondering, but why would the streets defend me if I never asked them to? Because energy speaks louder than words. Real people can feel when someone moves with integrity. You weren't running around proving yourself. You were just living your truth. The streets remember who helps without asking for credit, who stays quiet when others gossip, who stays loyal when things get tough. You did all that, and now it's paying off. Because when you're authentic, your energy lingers longer than lies ever can. Character is what's left when reputation gets tested. They tested yours, and it passed effortlessly. Your enemies are now learning a hard lesson. They can't manipulate public perception forever. Lies might run fast, but truth walks steady, and it always catches up. The streets don't lie for long. They talk, they compare stories, they notice patterns, and when your name came up, the pattern was clear. You were solid. You didn't have a double life. You didn't change up when people weren't watching. You were just consistent. Imagine this. Chosen one, they tried to plant poison in people's minds, but your actions had already built an immunity in them. When that investigator asked around, every response he got was a reminder of who you truly are. "They're good people," someone said, "always been respectful." Another said, "They don't get involved in nonsense." And one even said, "If you're looking for something negative, you won't find it there." Those answers were your crown, and your enemies had to watch it being placed on your head by the very people they thought would betray you. It's poetic, isn't it? The same streets where they whispered against you are now echoing your victory. That's the sound of justice, and they can't stand it, because the one thing worse than being caught lying is realizing no one believes you anymore. Their secrets have no audience now. Their credibility evaporated the moment people realized they were obsessed with you. The world saw their envy before it ever saw your supposed flaws. Here's a quote that fits this moment perfectly. The louder they talk, the quieter the truth needs to be. You didn't have to defend yourself, chosen one. The silence did it. The streets did it. The truth walked calmly, while their lies tripped over their own exaggerations. Every time they tried to add to the story, it only made them look desperate. Because people notice when someone's obsessed. They can tell the difference between a truth teller and a hater. And in your case, that difference was crystal clear. Imagine this next picture. They lit a match to burn your name, but the wind carried the flame back to their own doorstep. Now they're standing in the ashes of their own rumors while you're walking in daylight, untouched. That's how the universe balances the scales. It doesn't need your permission to defend you. You might ask, why didn't anyone believe their lies? Because you've built a reputation that can't be shaken by gossip. That's the real secret. They underestimated the quiet power of your consistency. People have watched you show up day after day without drama. They've seen you handle pressure without snapping. They've noticed how you treat others, how you keep your word, how you stay grounded when everyone else loses their temper. That's why when your enemies tried to twist your name, it didn't fit. It's hard to convince people that the calm one was the problem when everyone's already seen the chaos coming from somewhere else. The streets remember what the fakes forget. That's another truth they're learning the hard way. They thought your reputation was up for debate, but real people, people who've seen you live, work and move, already made up their minds long ago. They know your character because they've witnessed it. They saw how you handled setbacks with grace. They saw how you stayed kind in moments when it would have been easy to be bitter. That's the kind of evidence no rumor can destroy. Now the ones who started this whole mess are sitting there wondering how their own plan backfired so completely. They're embarrassed, bitter and scared, because once lies lose their power, they expose the liar. The same mouths that used to gossip about you are now being avoided, side-eyed and called out. The universe turned their audience into your supporters. Imagine this final image, you walking through the same streets they tried to turn against you, head high, peace in your chest, while whispers of admiration trail behind you. You became the story they couldn't control. You turned their investigation into inspiration. You didn't need revenge. The truth already handled it. So, chosen one, understand this. Your life spoke louder than their secrets ever could. You don't have to argue with rumors when your history already contradicts them. You've earned your peace, and now it's loud enough for everyone to hear. The streets didn't just speak for you, they shouted. They told the world who you really are, and now the liars are left with nothing but their own silence. Because when integrity walks the same streets as gossip, integrity always wins. Number 3, they called for an investigation but accidentally summoned a mirror. They didn't lose the battle against you, they lost the war against themselves. That's the truth they can't face, chosen one. They wanted to drag you through the mud, to see you exposed and humiliated. But when the spotlight came on, the only shadows it revealed belonged to them. The investigator didn't find the fraud they imagined. Instead, every interview, every observation, every quiet testimony reflected one undeniable fact. You live clean. You live real. You live without double faces. And that burned them more than any insult ever could. Imagine this: someone plans to rob your house, but forgets you've got mirrors on every wall. The moment they step in, they see themselves instead of treasure. That's what this whole thing became. They launched an investigation, thinking it would uncover flaws, but it just reflected their insecurities back at them. Every good word about you was a punch to their ego. Consistent, professional, humble, words they've never earned in their own life. So when people described you like that, it wasn't flattery. It was exposure. It showed how small they've stayed while you quietly grew. Jealousy isn't about wanting what you have. It's about hating that you have it effortlessly. That's the sickness that's eating them alive. They can't understand how someone can be calm under fire, respectful under pressure, and grounded while surrounded by chaos. They mistook your discipline for disguise. They believed there had to be some secret scandal hidden beneath your peace. But peace isn't weakness, it's power refined. And when the investigation confirmed that truth, it shattered their illusion. Because suddenly they weren't looking at your mistakes, they were forced to face their own. Let's be real, this was never about truth. It was about ego. They wanted to feel right about hating you. They needed validation for the stories they'd built in their heads. So they hid behind the idea of justice, pretending to seek truth while secretly hoping for destruction. But the universe doesn't cooperate with false intentions. What they meant for your exposure became their reflection. You became the mirror that doesn't lie, and that's why they're angry. Think about it, chosen one. Why else would they still talk about the report if it supposedly cleared you? Because the report wasn't the issue, you were. Your existence challenges their excuses. Your composure highlights their instability. Your truth erases their fiction. Every time someone praises your name, they feel like the walls are closing in. They wanted everyone to see a monster, but instead, the world saw a masterpiece. Truth doesn't defend, it reveals. And that's what this whole ordeal did. It revealed how you've handled pressure with grace, how you've navigated betrayal without revenge, how you've stayed centered while they spiraled. It showed the contrast between a person living in alignment and one trapped in resentment. The light that was supposed to expose you ended up burning through their disguise. That's why their rage feels personal now. It's not about what was said, it's about what was seen. Imagine standing under a spotlight thinking it's going to expose someone else, only to realize it's aimed at you. That's exactly what they're feeling now, raw discomfort, because truth has a way of turning the camera around. They set the stage, they called the shots, but they forgot who the real star was. You didn't need to perform, your authenticity did the work. So now they sit there, seething, pretending they don't care, pretending the results don't bother them, but it does. Every clean word about you is a reminder that they wasted energy trying to destroy someone who's already unshakable. Every compliment about your consistency is a mirror held up to their chaos. They can't escape it because truth doesn't fade when it's inconvenient. It echoes. They thought the investigation would close your chapter. Instead, it opened their own. They can't unsee what's been revealed. They can't unhear what people really think of you. And the worst part? They can't unfeel the sting of realizing that their lies only amplified your light. That's why they're still angry. Not because of the report, but because when they looked for your flaws, they found their reflection staring back. Number 4, they tried to write your downfall, but the universe rewrote the script. They didn't lose control of you, they lost control of the lie. That's what really eats them alive, chosen one. From the beginning, this was never about truth. It was about narrative. They didn't have to fight you openly. They just had to make people believe a version of you that didn't exist. And for a while, it worked. They crafted their little storyline in the shadows, spreading it piece by piece, like poison disguised as truth. They thought they were the authors of your reputation, but when the universe flipped the script, their pen broke mid-sentence. Imagine this: they built a stage, dressed the scene, and rehearsed their lines, ready to perform your downfall in front of an audience. But when the curtains opened, everyone saw through the act. The lighting exposed their faces, their tone cracked, and suddenly the villain wasn't you, it was them. That's what happens when you try to narrate someone else's truth. Lies have short breath, truth has endurance. The crowd realized that everything you'd been accused of didn't match who you'd been showing up as. The performance collapsed under the weight of reality. Manipulation works until observation arrives. That's the fact that shattered their strategy. They whispered lies in the right ears, spun stories online, and turned your calmness into arrogance. They called your peace coldness, your boundaries attitude. They wanted people to see you through their insecurities. But then came the investigation, the moment observation entered the room. And when real people started talking, everything shifted. Co-workers, friends, even people who barely interacted with you, all said the same thing. You weren't who the rumors claimed. You were steady, respectful, real. In that instant, the lie ran out of oxygen. Think about it, chosen one. How do you control a story when every character starts telling the truth? You don't. You lose it. And that's exactly what happened. The ones who once controlled the whispers now can't even control their own reputation. People are questioning them, side-eyeing them, replaying every conversation they ever had about you. Wait, they think. If that was a lie, what else was fake? That's the kind of unraveling you can't stop. Because once doubt enters the room, it spreads faster than any rumor. Imagine standing in front of a wall you've painted with lies, only to watch it peel itself apart. That's what they're witnessing now. The narrative they built was fragile, made of gossip, jealousy, and wishful thinking. And when truth entered the scene, it didn't argue. It just stood there, and everything false around it began to crumble. That's why they're quiet now. That's why they avoid eye contact. They're not afraid of you. They're afraid of exposure. Here's the part they never saw coming. Once a lie collapses, it doesn't just disappear. It turns on its creator. People who once believed them now see the pattern, the constant drama, the exaggerations, the inconsistencies. You didn't have to defend yourself. Their behavior did it for you. The universe made sure their performance ended exactly where it began, in shame. Truth doesn't need to chase lies. Lies run out of breath trying to escape it. That's what happened here. You didn't have to explain, argue, or clap back. You just stayed solid while their fiction fell apart under its own weight. They thought silence made you powerless, but your composure became their undoing. Because every calm reaction, every graceful exit, every refusal to engage told people one thing: you weren't the villain, you were the proof. Now the same people who once joined the gossip are asking themselves, why were they so obsessed with destroying someone who never even fought back? And that question is fatal to a manipulator. It flips the focus back where it belongs, on them. They didn't just lose control of the story, they lost control of perception. Their credibility shattered the moment yours was confirmed. So yes, chosen one, they thought they were writing your downfall, but the universe edited the ending. Their words became your testimony. Their lies became your spotlight. They didn't just lose control, they lost their audience. And now, all that's left for them to do is watch while the truth they feared most takes center stage, and it's spelling your name in lights. Number 5. You lived so real that even strangers testified for you. They can fake words, but they can't fake energy. That's the silent truth that destroyed their entire operation, Chosen One. You didn't go around defending yourself. You didn't post long captions proving your worth. You didn't need to. You just lived, honestly, quietly, and consistently. You treated people with respect, even when no one was watching. You showed up the same way in private as you did in public. And that's what terrified them most. Because when the investigator came looking for gossip, he didn't find chaos, he found consistency. Imagine that moment. They expected a flood of mixed opinions, whispers, and half smiles. They thought some stranger, some distant acquaintance, would throw a little shade. But instead, the story repeated itself like an echo. They're calm. They're focused. They mind their own business. The investigator started noticing a pattern. Your reputation had no cracks, no secret drama, no hidden mess, no skeletons waiting to fall. Just the same word everywhere he went: solid. That kind of harmony can't be staged. It's not luck. It's a life lived with discipline. Authenticity is silent confidence. It doesn't need permission to be felt. That's your secret weapon. You didn't charm people. You earned their quiet respect. You didn't chase popularity. You built credibility. Even those who only passed you in hallways or crossed paths once remembered your composure. That's how strong your presence is. It lingers even where your voice doesn't reach. And that's what your enemies couldn't handle. Because while they were crafting stories in private, the world was collecting evidence of your truth in public. Imagine this. Your enemies built a rumor, hoping it would spread like wildfire, but it landed in a field soaked with rain. The fire couldn't catch, because everywhere the spark touched, people said, "That doesn't sound like them." That's the moment they realized they'd lost control of the narrative completely. You had unknowingly built a shield out of your integrity. Even people with no personal connection to you could sense your energy was clean. That's power. Not the kind you show off, but the kind that moves quietly, undeniably, through every space you've ever walked. And maybe you wonder, why would strangers defend me? Because energy doesn't lie. People remember how you made them feel, even in small interactions. The nod in a hallway, the patience when others were rude, the way you never joined gossip circles. Those things add up. You were building your defense before there was ever an accusation. Your life became your witness list. Integrity is a full-time job. Reputation is just the paycheck. You've been clocking in every day, living real, not reacting, not pretending. And now the universe is cashing that check on your behalf. Your enemies wanted chaos, but all they found was calm. They wanted rumors, but all they heard was respect. They wanted someone to hate, but all they saw was proof that you were never their equal. So now, even strangers vouch for you without realizing it. That's how pure your alignment is. It speaks through everyone you've ever encountered. While they tried to write fiction, you were writing facts with your actions. You didn't have to build an image. You became one. That's the difference between their kind of influence and yours. Theirs depends on talking. Yours depends on truth. And here's the part that breaks them completely. How can you destroy someone whose life defends itself? You can't. Because when your energy speaks louder than your words, every lie collapses under its own noise. You've been living so authentically that even those who never knew your story ended up protecting it. And that, Chosen One, is what true power looks like. Number 6. They laughed at your solitude until it became your shield. They mocked your distance because they couldn't reach your level. That's the truth, Chosen One. Back then, they smirked at how you stayed quiet, how you kept to yourself, how you didn't crave attention or validation. They labeled you cold, standoffish, maybe even arrogant. But what they didn't see was that your solitude wasn't loneliness, it was strategy. You weren't hiding, you were protecting peace. And that peace is exactly what saved you when the storm came. Imagine it. While they were forming fake alliances, you were forming self-respect. They gathered in circles built on gossip, their smiles sharper than knives, mistaking popularity for power. You stayed out of it. You knew that attention attracts chaos. You kept your name clean by keeping your presence rare. They laughed at your silence because it made them uncomfortable. But now, the same silence they mocked is echoing louder than all their excuses. The investigation proved what you already knew. You were never part of their mess, and that's why you're untouchable. Sometimes isolation isn't punishment, it's protection. That's the lesson they're choking on now. They spent their energy trying to belong, trying to be seen, trying to be heard. You spent yours mastering self-control. They thought solitude made you soft, but it made you sharp. You saw what they couldn't, the danger of blending in with the wrong crowd. You understood early that not every smile hides goodwill, and not every connection deserves closeness. So you stayed selective, and now the universe is proving you right. Imagine this. The investigator starts making calls, asking questions, connecting dots. And what happens? Every trail leads away from you. Your name doesn't appear in the gossip chains. Your phone isn't in the screenshots. Your voice isn't in the rumors. You're clean, so clean that even the messy ones can't pretend otherwise. That's when they realized the real difference between you and them. They built their safety in numbers. You built yours in truth. And now, when the dust settles, look who's panicking. The ones who mocked you for being alone are suddenly exposed because they can't hide behind each other anymore. Their alliances are cracking. Their secrets are leaking. Their group chats are turning into confession booths. Meanwhile, you're calm, untouched, watching it all unfold like a spectator at your own vindication. Distance is expensive, but peace is priceless. You paid that cost early, chosen one. You endured loneliness, misunderstanding, and judgment, all so you could be free when it mattered most. You weren't antisocial, you were self-aware. You didn't isolate out of fear, you separated out of clarity. And now, the same solitude they called strange is the reason your reputation remains spotless while theirs falls apart. They laughed at your silence. Now that silence speaks louder than their noise. They called you distant, but your distance became a fortress. They thought you were weak because you walked alone, but you were simply walking ahead. And the higher you rose, the more they realized solitude was never your weakness. It was your shield, your weapon, and your proof that the loudest power is often the quietest presence in the room. Number 7. The good gossip became your armor and their downfall. They tried to shoot lies at you, but your truth was bulletproof. That's exactly what happened, chosen one. While they were busy loading their words like weapons, your actions had already built the armor. Every time you showed respect in private, every time you chose silence over pettiness, every time you walked away from chaos instead of fueling it, you were layering protection without even realizing it. You didn't have to beg anyone to believe in you. The way you lived became your evidence. Imagine this. While your enemies whispered in circles, trying to twist your name, someone else was quietly saying, "No, that's not who they are." Maybe it was a co-worker who saw how you handled stress with calm. Maybe it was a friend who noticed how you never repeated gossip. Maybe it was a stranger who caught one glimpse of your humility and couldn't forget it. That's how real you've been. Your presence alone left witnesses everywhere you went. You weren't performing goodness, you were goodness in motion. Reputation built on truth doesn't need defense, it defends you. That's what played out in this entire spiritual battle, because make no mistake, this wasn't just about words. This was about energy, light versus shadow, authenticity versus deception. They wanted to assassinate your character. They wanted to strip away your credibility, to make people doubt your intentions. But your quiet consistency stood taller than all their noise. The universe had already filed the evidence before the case even started. Imagine them trying to orchestrate a takedown while your name was busy earning loyalty behind closed doors. Every person who'd ever seen you move with integrity became an invisible guard. When the investigator came around, those guards spoke up, not because they were loyal to you, but because truth naturally defends itself. People said things like, always respectful, never cause trouble, calm and kind. That's when your enemies realized the real problem. The good gossip had outgrown their lies. Energy introduces you before your name does. That's a fact. Even people who didn't know your story could feel your authenticity. And when the lies started flying, that same energy worked like a shield. They tried to drag you into a war of words, but your silence made them look desperate. They tried to expose you, but there was nothing to expose. You had already built a reputation of peace while they were building a strategy of chaos. Here's what burns them the most. Their lies didn't just fail, they backfired. Every attempt to damage your name only highlighted your grace. Every accusation turned into an example of your restraint. And that's how spiritual warfare works. It tests who you are when no one's watching. You passed every test, even when you didn't know one was happening. Every time you held your tongue instead of clapping back. Every time you stayed kind when you were misunderstood, you were forging invisible armor. Imagine being so solid that your enemies end up promoting your truth by trying to destroy it. That's what happened here. They didn't just lose, they exposed their own darkness trying to dim your light. The good gossip became a mirror reflecting everything they weren't. You didn't need revenge, you just needed to keep walking right, and the universe handled the rest. Now everyone sees it clearly. They came for your name, but your life had already testified. They came to destroy your image, but the public memory of your calmness made that impossible. And now, no matter what they say, no one buys it. Because your energy, your track record, your way of existing, it's all been too consistent to question. So yes, chosen one, this was more than gossip. It was spiritual warfare. And you didn't just survive it, you mastered it. Your peace became your sword. Your authenticity became your shield. They tried to bring you down with words, but the truth rose up like armor around your soul. You were covered before they even started aiming, and now every rumor they fired has ricocheted right back at them. Number 8. Your calm life was the scandal they couldn't manufacture. They called you boring because peace doesn't perform. That's what destroyed them, chosen one. While they were out chasing chaos, trying to make noise, you were busy making discipline look divine. You weren't in every conversation, you weren't craving the spotlight, you weren't fighting invisible wars online. You just kept your lane clean, and now that silence they mocked has become the one thing they can't compete with. Because when the investigation started, your life didn't show cracks, it showed structure. Imagine this. They were digging through your past like detectives on caffeine, expecting to find a trail of recklessness. But all they found was peace. No scandals, no messy breakups, no shady texts, just receipts of self-control. The more they looked, the more frustrated they became, because you didn't give them a single thread to pull. You lived so clean that even the dirt got bored. That's when they realized your boring routine was the most powerful rebellion of all. It made you untouchable. Peace is not the absence of excitement, it's the presence of mastery. You've been living proof of that. Your discipline was never dull, it was deliberate. Every time you chose to walk away instead of argue, every time you said less instead of defending more, you were sharpening your power. You built your reputation the slow way, through patterns, through actions, through repetition. And now that your enemies are under pressure, their chaos exposes them while your consistency protects you. Imagine them trying to paint you as fake or shady, while the investigator's notes read like a checklist of excellence: respectful, punctual, calm, focused. That's not coincidence, that's proof of intention. They couldn't twist your peace into scandal because peace leaves no fingerprints. They underestimated how dangerous stability is in a world addicted to drama, because chaos needs reaction to survive, and you never fed it. You didn't give them emotion to twist or weakness to exploit. You starved their power by staying still. They hate that your life doesn't require cleanup. They hate that you don't wake up to consequences. They hate that while they were performing for validation, you were quietly building a legacy of control. You weren't running from drama. You were just never in it to begin with. That kind of composure terrifies unstable people because it proves they can't touch you. And here's the truth: they don't fear your boring life because it's dull. They fear it because it's proof. Proof that not everyone has to lie, scheme, or manipulate to stay relevant. Proof that peace wins. Proof that self-discipline creates its own protection. They called you boring because calling you powerful would have hurt too much. But now the evidence speaks louder than envy ever could. So yes, chosen one, your stillness was never weakness. It was strategy. You mastered the art of living without chaos. And that, more than anything else, made you unbreakable. They wanted a scandal. They wanted a slip-up. They wanted something, anything to destroy you with. But your boring life gave them nothing. And when an enemy has nothing left to attack, all that's left for them to do is watch. Number 9. They wanted the lie exposed, but the truth blinded them instead. They sent the truth to destroy you, but the truth came back worshipping your name. That's the moment everything flipped. Chosen one. They didn't call for an investigation out of curiosity. They did it out of envy. They wanted someone official to stamp their lies with credibility. They wanted the universe to confirm what they'd been whispering, that you were fake, that your peace was an act, that your composure was manipulation. But instead of finding darkness, the investigation uncovered light so pure it burned through every rumor they'd built. Imagine their faces when the report they prayed would ruin you turned into your greatest testimony. The investigator didn't find contradictions. He found alignment. He didn't hear chaos. He heard calm. Every person he spoke to painted the same picture. You handled pressure with grace, betrayal with silence, and disrespect with maturity. No scandal, no shadow, just proof of a soul that stayed consistent through storms. That wasn't the confirmation your enemies wanted. It was the confirmation they feared most. Truth doesn't take sides, it exposes them. And that's exactly what happened. What they meant as a trap became a mirror. Every lie they told only highlighted their own bitterness when weighed against the evidence. The investigators' findings didn't just defend you, they revealed them. Because the only deceit in the story came from those who tried to weaponize your name. The irony, the moment they tried to bury you under falsehoods, they unearthed their own motives. Imagine this like a spotlight turning on in a dark theater. They wanted you illuminated in scandal, but instead the light exposed the puppeteers behind the curtain. Every fake story, every exaggerated rumor, every silent wish to see you crumble. It all fell apart under the weight of real proof. You didn't have to argue or explain yourself. The truth became its own witness. The investigation wasn't your trial. It was their exposure. They wanted the evidence to ruin you, but the evidence loved you too much to lie. That's how the universe works. When you live right, even the facts align in your favor. The investigator didn't just clear your name, he documented your integrity. He recorded the stories people told about your calm strength, your professionalism, your refusal to retaliate when pushed. That report became sacred proof of everything your enemies tried to deny. Now they can't talk without choking on irony. They wanted validation for their lies, but the verdict came back glowing with light. They thought they'd humiliate you. Instead, they made you legendary. Because when truth steps into the room, lies don't just die, they implode. This wasn't just about your reputation. It was a spiritual audit. The universe ran the receipts and found you clean. And when that kind of truth is revealed, no rumor can survive it. They can't unsee what's been proven. They can't rebury what's been unearthed. And the worst part for them, the very investigation they set up to break you became the spotlight that crowned you. So yes, Chosen One, they wanted the investigator to confirm the lie, but he confirmed the light instead. And now that light is permanent. It shines through every word, every action, every memory of yours that's been recorded in the minds of those who met you. They wanted evidence of guilt. The universe gave evidence of grace. And that's why they're not just angry, they're haunted. Because the truth didn't just clear your name, it made your name unstoppable. And that's the truth, Chosen One. They tried to bury your name, but all they did was plant your legacy. Every lie they spread became proof of your strength. Every test only revealed your truth. So keep walking tall, because the universe already cleared your name long before they tried to stain it. And if this message hit your spirit today, press that like button if you haven't already. And if you're not yet part of our family, make sure to subscribe. You belong here with the ones who rise every time they're counted out.